We are here in my office. It's a Thursday morning and it's the last day of February, which means I'm going to be closing out my February budget and starting my new March budget or my March tracking period. So let me kind of show you what I've done so far to close out my February budget. Okay, so first, here is the start of my February month in my Budget by Paycheck workbook. So I have my budget calendar. The first thing I did to close out my budget, I'm just going to go to my expense trackers here. All right, so very quickly, a little background information on my expense trackers. I have different expense trackers for every area of money movement in my life, cash and my checking account. So with my cash expense tracker, I got fully updated with all my cash spending. That means I'm going through my cash envelopes. I'm looking for receipts, making sure that's fully updated. Next, I'm going on to my online checking account and getting updated with my checking account spending. You can see I have this fully highlighted. It's just weird that my spending happened just go to the very last one of this page. That was it. But I got fully updated. That is the first thing you have to do to close out your budget. Now, if you're using the Where Did My Money Go worksheets inside of the Budget by Paycheck workbook, to ensure that you're closing out correctly, you also have to make sure you are tracking your spending correctly. Now, there are a couple of different things. For instance, when I am pulling out cash for my cash envelopes, you can see I have this transaction on 2/1. It says envelopes, okay? This is my checking account. This is me going down to the bank and pulling out cash from my envelopes. And then when I get home and I track that, I put a line through it and I say, don't count. Meaning, Miko, don't count this transaction when you are closing out your budget. Here is why. Yes, it's going to affect your balance on your checking account. It's going to decrease it because you're pulling cash out of that checking account. But you are tracking the spending of those dollars, of the 1318, over here on your cash expense tracker. This is where I track all of my cash spending. So if I were to track it here and also over here, I'm double counting my spending. Does that make sense? So that's one of the ones you need to make sure. If you're pulling out cash for your cash envelopes, and you're also tracking the spending of that cash, you need to put a line through it just to remind yourself, hey, it affected my balance, but the 1318 or the money I'm pulling out for my cash is being tracked somewhere else. Another big thing is when I use a sinking fund savings in my life during the current tracking period, and then I'm spending. So let me show you a good example of this. Just recently, a couple days ago, I had to put both of my cats down. So I was not expecting that. They declined rapidly. They were very, very old, over 18 years old. And one had heart disease, one was diabetic, and it was just time. I was not expecting this. So here's what that looked like. I have a pet's savings account or a pet's sinking fund. So here's me writing down the spending for that transaction. $600 is what I spent for the euthanasia and the cremation. And then here is me adding money back into my life because I'm using my pet's sinking fund. It is a deposit. It's an inflow into my life. I call it a savings inflow. This is savings used in my life to cover this transaction. Because this spending happened, I have to document it. Okay, how did I get the income for that spending? Well, it's right here. So if you have saved for a sinking fund in a previous time period and you're using it in the current budget tracking period, then you're just going to write savings inflow in the amount that you are putting into your life to use. And then you need to track the spending of it. These cancel each other out. They're both accounted for. So those are just some of the scenarios I know come up for people. So you can see like all of these are savings inflow. I'm paying my house insurance. I'm paying my car insurance. I'm, taking care of James' expenses with sinking fund. This is why I save for sinking funds. This is why I do it. Look, another one, Valentine's Day sinking fund. I mean, just between those, I'm using 5 different sinking funds. My Valentine's Day, my pets, my house insurance, my car insurance, and James. I have a sinking fund for all of that. I am prepared. I have that security. I have that peace of mind. I have the money when things come up, especially like this during a really sad, hard, stressful moment in my life. I didn't have to worry about money. So once your trackers are fully updated, now you can start the process of closing out your budget. There is one step that I do. I go here to my budget, and as bills are coming out for my fixed expenses, I write down the actual amount coming out. And then I write down, once I have all of my spending updated, I write down the actual amount that I spent. This was a very weird month. I had mentioned on my Instagram, I pulled cash from every envelope I had to cover my last grocery trip in the month of February. It was very weird. It's a red flag. It told me I need to adjust my spending budget for my variable expenses. I increased my food budget for March. And then I'm also writing in the actual spending of my sinking funds. And then what really happened in my life. You need to fill out this actual column on your budget. It is there for a reason, because if there's a difference between your budget spending and your actual spending, whether it's the red in the negative or it's green in the positive, you need to figure out what to do with that scenario. If you have more money than because you budgeted more than what actually happened, then you need to figure out, okay, I have some extra money, even if it's $10. You need to ensure that that $10 is working the best for you. Throw a little bit towards debt. Throw a little bit more in your emergency fund. So that's one of the steps that I do. So let's go over here to my Where Did My Money Go worksheets. Okay, first one, monthly budget category breakdown. So people see this total monthly inflow and they're like, oh my gosh, you make $13,000 a month. I do not. But I had $13,000 inflow into my life in the month of February. My inflow includes the starting balance of my checking account. What is the value of your checking account the day you are closing out your budget? So show this to you. So on my expense trackers, remember I updated this. If I go down here, okay, $563.97. That is what's in my checking account the moment I close out my budget. And the moment I'm starting a new tracking period. I'm starting my tracking period for March because I'm closing down February. The value of your checking account the moment you close out your budget is also the starting balance of the new tracking period, $563.97. So let's go back to this is March. Let's go back to February. All right, so my starting balance in February. So the moment I started my February balance, which means my January ending balance, here's my expense tracker for January. Looks like I went into another page here. Boom. $456.08 was my ending balance for my checking account the moment I closed out January and I moved into February. So for my February closeout, that starting balance is right here, $456. I had an earned income. This is what I actually earned. W-2 wages in February, $5,600. Other income. Okay, this can be refunds in your life. This could be money that someone is giving back to you. This could be maybe a Rakuten check that you received. Maybe it's money you sold on Mercari from something you sold online. Okay, this is for me, the $600 is what Chris gave me to cover some of the expenses. He's in the middle of trying to get down his student loans. As a family, as a marriage, as a couple, as a partnership, as a team, we have decided I don't want him to give me money for bills. I want him to throw everything he has towards getting down that loan. Okay, so savings used. These are all the sinking funds I used in the month of February. This is what makes up this big number. All right, monthly budget category breakdown. My monthly budget for my categories and my monthly spent. Huge, huge, huge. 42% of the money I had coming in went towards insurance. Why? Because in February, my house insurance is due, as well as my car insurance, because I pay my car insurance every 6 months and I pay my house insurance every year. They just happen to fall in February. But I had sinking funds to cover that. So that's a big one. Also, food, 7%. This is creeping up. This is why I decided now over the last 2 months, it's been over 900, but I'm making small incremental changes, small increases, decreasing in other areas of my budget. So I'm starting with increasing my budget. It was $600. I'm going to $700 in March. I'm still challenging myself to keep it down. And then another big one, let's see. So we had 14% into savings, big one, 7% pets. And that's because we had to say goodbye to our kitties. So I was just off by $3. I think it was a rounding thing. For the most part, I was under budget except for the ones. Now, pets is over by the 600 because like I said, it wasn't in our budget. I had to use our emergency pet savings for that. So monthly category breakdown, were you over or under your budget that you set up for your budget categories? Now, if we go over here to my February monthly debt and savings breakdown, okay, you might see a difference in my total monthly income and inflow. Remember, inflow includes all of those things, all of these things. And I use that for investing. How much did I invest from my monthly inflow? Well, $800. That means I invested about 6% of my money. It went into James's 529, my individual account, and then our joint investment account. Now, this does not include Dante's 529. We do $250 a month, but that is out of a joint checking account I have with my husband, specifically only for baby spending and expenses. I'm not showing that because it's not my spending to share. It is some of it, but I also have to respect my husband's privacy as well. So we don't share that joint checking account, but I do a $450 transfer into that account every single month for baby and expenses only. So I do have it here as a transfer. Now, my monthly income is different. My monthly income is everything besides savings used. So it's my starting balance, it's my earned income, and my other income, because you're not going to track savings from savings used. So I saved $1,875, which is about 28% of my income. It went towards my $5 challenge, my Valentine's Day sinking fund for 2025, and my normal sinking funds. Now, the reason I like to break these down is because most of the time, I know the financial advice we receive is don't focus on more than one financial goal at a time, because you're going to spread yourself thin and not see the progress you're wanting to see on your goals. So, but here is my thing. In real life, not in la la land, not in perfect scenario land, but in real life, you're going to be working on more than one goal at a time. But you want to ensure that where you are throwing your money goes towards what you are prioritizing for those goals. Now, if I look at this, I can say this is right. Yeah, I'm prioritizing my 529, then my individual, or then my joint account, then my individual. Do you see how the percentages line up with the order of priority that I have for my goals? Yeah, sinking funds, my normal sinking funds, those take priority over my $5 challenge for sure. So this just ensures and lets you know, okay, even though I'm working on multiple goals, is most of my money going towards the ones that are either urgent, short-term, or needed immediately or pretty quickly? Order your goals in order of importance. Now, the next where did my money go worksheet is my monthly spending comparison. Did I spend more this month than last month? And you can see I did in a lot of them. It's in the orange red that I spent more. Now, last month in January, I didn't do a transfer because we had a lot of accumulated money in that account when we decided to skip a month. So I didn't have anything there. So that was obviously more than last month. Another big one, holiday, I didn't have spending there. Household, that was another let's see. No, household should be less than. That's an error. I spent less in February than I did in January. So I need to fix that. All right. So another big one's James. We decided also to stop James's Stitch Fix. He has a ton of clothes he's not wearing. So we decided to stop that until we can get through the clothes that we do have. And then obviously more in the pets because of having to say goodbye. So I also kept updated on my monthly meal plan, and I have started that for March. Now, when you close out your budget for 1 month, you are essentially starting your tracking period for another, right? Because if you're shutting down one tracking period, you got to start the other. So this is the Budget Mom wallet. And we're going to be releasing more information about these soon. We should be selling these sometimes this month. But essentially, I'm ready. I have my cash envelope teller slip to go down to the bank and pull out cash for my March budget. I also have all of my different envelopes ready to go for March. Now, I'm using our fun St. Patrick's Day envelopes that just were released, and I'm going to be using that in the month of March. So those are ready to go to the bank, and I'm fully closed out with my budget. All right, so I know closing out your budget and using the Where Did My Money Go worksheets can be very overwhelming, especially if you're just starting the budget by paycheck method. But here's what I want to say about this. It is important to have awareness around what is happening and where your money is going. For me, I want you to prioritize learning how to track your spending, making that a really consistent habit. Get that established first. Focus on that step first. Gradually work your way into learning how to read and understand what that spending is telling you. That's essentially what closing out your budget is. It's taking all of that tracking, all of that spending, and then it's pulling out and extracting all that important information, what your spending is yelling at you, right? And it's organizing it in a way where we can process and make better financial decisions. If you found this video helpful, please like it and don't forget to subscribe. Good morning. Well, good morning. Welcome to Thursday morning. No.